Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at some more Port Swigger. We're going to be continuing the WebAcademy learning path, and I took a brief look before starting. I'll be finishing up the SQL injection module, and up next we have the authentication module. So let's go ahead and dive in. I already have Cal AVM booted, and I opened up Port Swigger. So where we left off yesterday, I just finished up this SQL injection with filter bypass via XML encoding, which there's a great lesson in there if you missed it. The lesson being, always make sure you're hitting the right endpoint. I was struggling pretty hard because I was hitting the wrong endpoint, so if a specific feature is mentioned or a specific URL is mentioned, double check before you start attacking that it's the right one. Thankfully, this wasn't an assessment or something, because possibly I would have been going out of scope, and that could lead to legal problems or who knows. It's not good. We all know it's not good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the reading here. Second order SQL injection. I think this was the last module, actually. I kind of browsed through. Didn't see any more modules, just a little bit more reading, so we're going to read through this. Could be some interesting stuff in here. Second order SQL injection. First order SQL injection arises where the application takes user input from an HTTP request and in the course of processing the request incorporates the input into a SQL query in an unsafe way. So that's what we've been doing this whole time, right? We put our payload into some input box or modify the value of a parameter in a request, and the query that we are putting in is directly placed into the SQL query, right? So second order is not that. We're about to find out what it is, but it's not that. In the second order SQL injection, also known as stored SQL injection, the application takes user input from an HTTP request and stores it for future use. This is usually done by placing the input into a database, but no vulnerability arises at the point where the data is stored. Later, when handling a different HTTP request, the application retrieves the stored data and incorporates it into the SQL query in an unsafe way. This sounds very complex, but I'm sure with an example it will click. So here we have an example payload. It looks like the value that we're providing is going to be bad guy single quote semicolon, which I find that kind of funny. We haven't been using semicolons this whole time, but they throw one in now. I suppose we are doing multiple actions or multiple queries now. The second one being an update. So this is, it looks like, for create an account. So we're creating an account called bad guy colon or single quote colon update user set password equals let me in, where user equals administrator, and then so this payload is going, if you didn't catch already, this payload is going to reset the administrator's password to let me in whenever the code is executed. So I'm not sure when it would be executed. That's interesting. So I imagine it goes to the application here in the create account. It gets stored in the database, and then when that user logs in and loads their profile, the update command runs. But I'm confused why it wouldn't run right away. I suppose because of the structure of the query here, or the structure of the way that it's being added. Possibly, maybe this is parameterized, so this is treated as a value, and we're not actually injecting code here, and that's why it doesn't run till load, possibly. So it gets stored here. Then this must be as the user is loading their profile. This is what happens. Select star from user options, where user equals bad guy. update users, set password, let me in, where user equals administrator. And then as a result, the attacker is able to log in as the administrator with the password that was modified. Second order SQL injection often arises in situations where developers are aware of SQL injection vulnerabilities and so safely handle the initial placement of the input to the database. When the data is later processed, it is deemed to be safe since it was previously placed into the database safely. At this point, the data is handled in an unsafe way because the developer wrongly deemed it to be trusted. So they handled the input properly, they did not sanitize the input properly. That's the failure point here, it seems, is that, you could have, I guess we'll see what the best practice is here, but I want to say the best practice is probably making sure someone can't write a query as a username. So this user at this step 1 here trying to create this account should be rejected. Some of these characters should be deny listed, or some sort of processing that catches the idea that this is a attempt at SQL. Database specific factors. Some core features of SQL language are implemented in the same way across popular database platforms, and so many ways of detecting and exploiting SQL injection vulnerabilities work identically on different types of databases. That's true with small differences like comments. The character for comments is different. Sometimes a semicolon is needed, sometimes not. Small differences. Function names, like built-in function names, or I guess I'm not sure if they're called functions or if stored procedures is the proper term, or if stored procedures and functions are two different things. That's something that I'd be interested to know, so I should figure that out someday. Some core features of we just read that. However, there are also many differences between common databases. These mean some techniques for detecting and exploiting SQL injection work differently on different platforms. For example, syntax for string concatenation, comments, batched or stacked queries, platform-specific APIs, and error messages. This is let's take a look at their cheat sheet. But I always use Hacktricks, or in the past I have, and Hacktricks has a very, very, very extensive list of all the different popular flavors of SQL. It's pretty similar to this. They even go as far as showing you best ways to fuzz for each different database type. So this is pretty neat. I still prefer Hacktricks. It has a whole bunch of stuff in one space, but this is really cool that they included this. Again, this is a free course. This is amazing. If you haven't done web app testing at all, but you're familiar with pen testing, like network pen testing, you've done the OSCP or any type of reading already, this might be a good place to start. If you try to do this and you're not quite ready, TryHackMe has some pretty good stuff. It's pretty entry-level friendly. I mean, you can go from knowing pretty much nothing about nothing past like a common internet browser's knowledge base, right? So I always think of people that probably don't even own a computer. They're just on Facebook on their phone or whatever. So those people, if you wanted to start hacking and that's your experience level, I would recommend probably starting on TryHackMe. Maybe even more basic than that. Get some lessons. I don't even know where you would start, to be honest. I just kind of take for granted that I've been on computers my whole life. So let's get out of this cheat sheet. Let's figure out what's going on next. So we are talking about database specific. Okay, how to prevent. Most instances of SQL injection can be prevented by using parameterized queries, also known as prepared statements, instead of string concatenation within the query. The following code is vulnerable to SQL injection because the user input is concatenating directly into the query. So check out, I think I called the series Go Hack Yourself, and I got it on YouTube now. So somebody was asking me about it on stream yesterday. I did this. I walked through in Python, created a SQL query, just used some basic concatenation where the user's input was injected right into the query. So it was vulnerable to SQL injection. We went through, exploited it, got to see what was working under the hood. Really simple Python. It wasn't anything crazy. So if you feel comfortable reading code, it was you. Yeah, it's on YouTube now, man. I uploaded it for you. Let me send you the link. I'm glad you made it in chat. How do you find your own stuff on YouTube? Oh, I did get a copyright claim on it. So I enjoy listening to good music while I'm working. As a result, I probably will never be able to monetize my YouTube. But that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm not doing this for money. Well, I mean, eventually I am, right? I'm doing it to advance my career. I'm doing it to become, to hone my craft, to become an expert. So I am doing this for money ultimately, but not for YouTube money. Career satisfaction is probably a better way to say it than just money. Here is the video link. I'll drop it in chat. To use your personal computer to practice hacking. Yes. What else would I use? A cell phone? All right. How to prevent SQL injection. Parameterized queries. So in the video that I just posted in chat, and I suppose if you're watching this on YouTube, I will make some reference, or just look into my channel. You'll see it somewhere. It's in the series is called Go Hack Yourself. So we walk through building this and learn what parameterized queries or prepared statements are, and then we go ahead and we go ahead and do that. And essentially, I think in Python what we did is store it in a variable. This was a while ago when I did this, but this code can easily be written in a way that prevents the user input from interfering with the query structure. Prepared statement equals connection.prepared statement. Oh no, it was something like this. There was a Python module or a Python library, some function in a library that I was using for the prepare statement. So that is apparently that's the standard way to remediate it. Parameterized queries can be used for any situation where untrusted input appears as data within the query, including the where clause and values in an insert or update statement. They cannot be used to handle untrusted input in other parts of the query, such as the table or column names or the order by clause. That seems risky as heck to allow user input to select a table name. Application functionality that places untrusted data into those parts of the query will need to take a different approach, such as whitelisting permitted input values. There you go, that's a good idea. Or using different logic to deliver the required behavior. For a parameterized query to be effective in preventing SQL injection, the string that is used in the query must always be hard-coded constant and must never contain any variable data from any origin. Do not be tempted to decide case by case whether an item of data is trusted, and continue using string concatenation within the query cases. I kind of lost my train of thought. I was like, do you ever do that when you're reading? You get that second layer of thought happening and you're paying attention to that, but just like somehow you're still reading, just not comprehending it. I used to do that in history class all the time. I hated history because I just couldn't follow it. I wasn't interested enough to focus. I was always thinking about what's happening during the day. So it's good to know that you do that, catch yourself doing that, and then go back and reread it so you can actually learn instead of just reading like a robot and not storing it. Do not be tempted to decide case by... Well, I'm going to start over in this paragraph. For parameterized queries to be effective in preventing SQL injection, the string that is used in the query must always be hard-coded constant. So the string used in the query must be a hard-coded constant. I'm not sure I could point that out here. The string that is used in the query must always be a hard-coded constant. So are we saying result set equals statement execute query, statement set string 1 input? This question here, I think this is where we're expecting input, and it's hard-coded in the, I think that would be hard-coded. I don't know. I'm not too sure what they're trying to say there. That's my that's my impression from reading it, I guess. Who knows? Do not be tempted to decide case by case whether an item of data is trusted, and continue using string concatenation within the queries for cases that are considered safe. It is all too easy to make mistakes about possible origin of data for other changes, or for changes in the code to violate assumptions about which data is tainted. Tainted data? That reminds me of an episode of Beavis and Butthead called Tainted Meat. That was the first time in my life I had ever heard the word tainted, and I had no idea what it meant until they tainted the meat. Authentication vulnerabilities. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're doing good. We got Ready to Hunt and Chat. We got Chech. Is it Chech? Like Cheech with one E? Chech 02X. To use your personal computer to practice hacking. Yes, I do. So this is a computer I bought for school. It's like an engineering type laptop. It's kind of bulky, Dell Inspiron, but it has a pretty high capacity for memory and has an i7 processor. So when I started going to school, I assumed I was going to need to have a beefy PC to run like countless VMs, and then turns out they have a virtual environment at the school for me, so I actually didn't need to use it for that. But I still, I enjoy running VMs on my local PC. It's pretty nice. I don't have to share my resources with other people. At least I don't think so. Maybe somebody's mining Bitcoin in the background or something. Who knows? I should probably start locking that down and do some system hardening. Ready to Hunt says, good dude. Hey, Ready to Hunt, do you do any bug bounties? Do you have like a good recommendation for a beginner? So once I get through this course, ideally I want to start looking at some bug bounties for experience, some hands-on experience. So I assume when you say Ready to Hunt, you're talking about hunting for bugs, but maybe it's something else. Sorry, I'm reading a Discord message quick. Also, I was going through my backlog of recordings. If you've watched me or followed me at all, you know that I'm absolutely horrible about uploading to YouTube, something I want to get better at. So last night, instead of hopping on a second stream for the day, I decided to work through that backlog. I got most of the stuff uploaded. There's a handful of stuff that I still need to make slight modifications to and then upload. It's just the render time is killing me right now, so I'm slowly working through those. Where was I going with that? It'll come back to me. Just starting my journey in this field. I have some resources I can send you. Hey, that'd be awesome. Yeah, because I don't think I'll dive into it right away. I still have a little bit of work to do, a little bit of learning until I would feel comfortable doing a bug bounty. I mean, I could probably sit there and bang my head against it right now, but what good is that going to do? I might as well go through this material and see what I can pick out of it. So let's get going on the authentication vulnerabilities. The thought that I lost earlier hasn't come back. Maybe it will halfway through the reading. Conceptually, at least, authentication vulnerabilities are some of the simplest issues to understand. However, they can be among the most critical due to the obvious relationship between authentication and security, as well as potentially allowing attackers direct access to sensitive data and oh my goodness. Oh, I remember. Okay. I remember what I was going to say earlier. So as I was working through my backlog, make sure you make some notes too, dude. Notes and methodology are gold. I'm a UK pad tester. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. That was actually one thing I was thinking about yesterday. I'm reading through this stuff, but I'm not actually taking notes. I'm just like reading it. So I guess I could rewatch my stuff and like take notes from it then. It wouldn't be a bad review. I could put it on 2x speed then too. But that was what I was going to say earlier. As I was rewatching my stuff, editing it, getting ready to upload it to YouTube, I kept hearing a Discord notification. I'm like, what the heck? I don't have any new messages. Why is it doing that? It was in the video. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I apologize. Or if you're watching it on stream, if you hear the Discord noise and you think you're getting a message, maybe you are, but it's probably just my computer making the noise and then feeding it through the same way I feed the music through. So I apologize for the confusion. Maybe I'll come up with like a weird tone so that it's not confused. Back to it. So as well as potentially allowing attackers direct access to sensitive data and functionality, they also expose additional attack surface for further exploits. For this reason, learning how to identify and exploit authentication vulnerabilities, including how to bypass common protection measures, is a fundamental skill. In this section, we'll look at some of the most common authentication mechanisms used by websites and discuss potential vulnerabilities in them. We'll highlight both inherent vulnerabilities in different authentication mechanisms, as well as some typical vulnerabilities that are introduced by their improper implementation. Finally, we'll provide some basic guidance on how you can ensure that your own authentication mechanisms are as robust as possible. Alright, that was a lot. So this is the introduction to this module or this section. We're going to be looking at different websites or different authentication mechanisms used by websites, and then discuss the vulnerabilities, highlighting inherent vulnerabilities. I think I need to like read more like I'm speaking, because I'm comprehending myself as I speak, but maybe I'm just like reading too monotonously. I'm back. Internet was acting up. Oh, I didn't even notice you were gone. Welcome back, Ready to Hunt. So Stream Mod, that is a pretty neat name. Do people ever ask you if you're actually a mod for the stream? Because I don't know if that can be a thing or not. Oops. That's sad. Ha ha ha. JK. Oh yeah, yeah. Now I noticed you were gone. I totally noticed you were gone. We're looking at authentication mechanisms. We're looking at the vulnerabilities. We're figuring out why they're vulnerable and then we're learning how to fix it. So after I finish this one up, maybe it would be an opportunity to do another Go Hack Yourself to really solidify some of these concepts. Once or twice, and yeah, I got it originally to script a Twitch mod bot, but things keep coming up. I've always wanted to do some bots too. I've thought of doing a Kick bot. I was only on Kick for a little while. It got pretty toxic pretty quick, and I decided I have better things to do with my time. Discord bots, that would be cool. I wanted to send a fake link to somebody and rickroll them, but you can't do that as a user. Apparently you can do that with a mod or using the API. So I wanted to try it. It's just, I would rather do this. I would much rather do this, get ready for a career in pen testing. And then, you know, I really want to empty the tank on my study sessions. So who knows, maybe someday I won't have anything to do and I'll start digging into some of that stuff. And maybe you will too. Maybe we can do it together. That would be fun. I've been looking at HackerOne for bug bounty information. Okay. I've heard the name come up a few times. I still haven't been on I haven't been on a single bounty platform yet, so. In this section, we just read that. So what's going on here? What's this infograph showing us? We have an attacker. You can tell because he's wearing headphones. The skull is just for fake branding. It's actually a MacBook, but they had to put the skull there because they didn't want to get sued by Apple. But the headphones are a dead giveaway. You see a guy wearing headphones and sunglasses, he's probably malicious. Forgot your password? Enter your email address to reset your password. I was kidding, by the way. Don't go around hating on people with headphones and sunglasses on. HackerOne is pretty good. Nice that once you found a couple bugs. Nice that once you found a couple bugs, this company might invite you to private. Oh, really? That's pretty cool. I suppose if they see that you're doing good work, you know, just like anything else, you start getting VIP access, right? So we forgot our password. We're going to say that we are Carlos, normal user. I'm assuming this is actually Carl. Or not Carl, Carlos. This is a post request to password reset endpoint, and the host is eviluser.net. Okay. We're posting it to a vulnerable website, which makes sense, right? This reset feature is part of the vulnerable website. This is the front end. They should have made this a picture of the back end, because that would have made more sense, I think. Because the post request flows to the back end, but then what's up with this user? How does the website interact with the user? I'm confused. Oh, it's an email. That makes sense. Hello, Carlos. To reset your password, click the following link. eviluser.net, password reset token. I don't fully grasp it. I see what's happening, but I don't fully grasp how. I wouldn't be able to reproduce this right now. But we're stealing the token. Yeah. I'm a bit confused here. eviluser.net. I mean, I'm assuming this could be any domain owned by the attacker. We'll see. If you're already familiar with the basic concepts behind authentication vulnerabilities and just want to practice exploiting them on some realistic, deliberately vulnerable targets, you can access all the labs in this topic from the link below. What is authentication? Authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a given user or client. In other words, it involves making sure that they really are who they claim to be, at least in part. Websites are exposed to anyone who is connected to the internet by design. That's the whole point of the website, right? Or the whole point of the internet. Therefore, robust authentication mechanisms are an integral aspect of effective web security. There are 3 authentication factors. I don't know, my brain is firing weird today, but when I read authentication, it reminded me, the past few weeks, I've heard the term authentication, just like authentication, but authentication. And it took everything in me not to say something when I heard somebody say that. So I held it in, and then finally one day I was bored, and I was thinking about that, and I looked it up. I looked up authentication, thinking, maybe this is a term that I'm unaware of, and it's something slightly different than authentication. It's the same thing. Authentication is a proper word. It's not a misnomer or whatever. It's a proper word according to the internet. So I guess maybe it's not. Maybe it's not in the Webster dictionary. But if you hear somebody say authentication, it may sound funny, but it's the same thing as authentication. They're not saying it wrong. They're just saying it different. There are 3 authentication factors into which different types of authentication can be categorized. Something you know, such as passwords or the answer to a security question. These are sometimes referred to as knowledge factors. Something you have, that is a physical object like a mobile phone or security token. These are sometimes referred to as possession factors. Something you are or do. For example, your biometrics or patterns of behavior. These are sometimes referred to as how do you pronounce this word? Inherence? Inherence. Wow. I've never seen that word before. We have knowledge factors, things you know, possession factors, things you have, and inherence factors, things you are or do. So that would probably roll into multi-factor or two-factor. That is combining any pair or any combination. Multi doesn't have to mean 2. It could be triple factor authentication, right? Could be quadruple. Going a little overboard there, but who knows? It might be needed. I've been looking at HackerOne and a hoodie I missed that. I love getting hoodies for the things I've completed. I was so bummed when OSCP didn't give me a cert. They just switched to the digital copy, so OffSec just sends me this email. Cool though, still cool. I'm glad I got the cert. I didn't get any swag for it, so I had to go on their website and purchase this cool, I'm wearing it today, the man standing in the lock hoodie. And yeah, who can't need more? Everybody needs more hoodies is what I'm trying to say. Hoodies are cozy. Authentication mechanisms rely on a range of technologies to verify one or more of these factors. What's the difference between authentication and authorization? Oh no, I have to make a decision now. StreamMod, why'd you do this to me? What kind of environment do I want to provide? One that's safe for children or one that's not? Want to get in my PC? Go for it. LOL, it's okay, don't mention it. I'm gonna let that one go, but try to keep it a little clean. I don't expect any younger people to be watching, but I do want this to be a productive space. If I think of when I was 14, 15 years old, and I ended up on some like shady online forums, and I really, really wish there was a positive hacker space where I could have gone and learned stuff. So that's what I want to provide to my viewers. I want to provide a space where 15-year-old me would have been like, wow, this is exactly what I was looking for. So that was a hilarious joke. That's awesome. But let's try to keep those to a minimum, please, going forward. What What a way to authenticate. Oh man. So what is the difference between authentication and authorization? Authentication is the process of verifying that a user really is who they claim to be, whereas authorization involves verifying whether a user is allowed to do something. In the context of a website or web application, authentication determines whether someone attempting to access the site with the username Carlos123 really is the person who created that account. Once Carlos123 is authenticated, his permissions determine whether or not he is authorized. For example, to access personal information about another user or perform actions such as deleting another user's account. Back later. Hey, right on. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you around more often. How do authentication vulnerabilities arise? All right, so the gist of that, authentication, authorization, they're different things, right? Authentication, is that why people say it? Because you just, that extra syllable, you're already on a roll. Authentication and authorization are different because authentication, so I can say, hey guys, I'm Nate. How do I prove that? I show you my ID, my driver's license that tells you who I am, that proves who I am, right? There's checks you can do to it to make sure it's valid, right? Authorization, that for example is I have a motorcycle, the bit on there that says I'm allowed to drive a motorcycle, right? So I am authorized in my state to drive a motorcycle. That's the difference between authentication and authorization. How do authentication vulnerabilities arise? Broadly speaking, most vulnerabilities and authentication mechanisms arise in one of two ways. The authentication mechanisms are weak because they fail to adequately protect against brute force attacks. So the authentication mechanisms are weak because they fail to automatic account lockouts, I think, is what they're talking about there. Logic flaws are poor coding, allow the authentication mechanisms to be bypassed entirely. SQL injection by an attacker is sometimes referred to as broken authentication. In many areas of web development, logic flaws will simply cause the website to behave unexpectedly. Or forced browsing, I suppose, might fall under this category. I'm just guessing. I don't know. This could be wrong. But I like to try to think ahead, because then if it comes up and I was wrong, it'll stick a little bit better. If it comes up and I was right, a little win, right? It's always fun. In many areas of web development, logic flaws will simply cause the website to behave unexpectedly, which may or may not be a security issue. However, as authentication is so critical to security, the likelihood that flawed authentication logic exposes the website to security issues is clearly elevated. Yes, this is true. Authentication is like the first line of security, right? If you have secrets on the website, or you have sensitive info that only certain users are supposed to access, they need to authenticate. They should have to authenticate. Otherwise, everybody can see it. It's not safe. What is the impact of vulnerable authentication? The impact of authentication vulnerabilities can be severe. Once an attacker has either bypassed authentication or has brute forced their way into another user's account, they have access to all the data and functionality that the compromised account has. They are able to compromise a high privilege account, such as a system administrator, if they can compromise sysadmin. They could take full control over the entire application and potentially gain access to internal infrastructure. That's true. That's true. I had to do that on the PNPT. Even compromising a low privileged account might still grant an attacker access to data that they otherwise shouldn't have, such as commercially sensitive business information or emails, right? Think of an email system. What is it? It's a web app, right? You get your web mail. It doesn't matter whose email you log into. You're reading someone's email. Sometimes it might have access instructions, how to get on the VPN, right? How to log into this server. Security tokens, security mechanisms, just because it's a low privileged account doesn't mean there won't be anything in there. There's juicy info everywhere. Keep your eyes open. Even if the account does not have access to any sensitive data, it might still allow an attacker to access additional pages, which provide a further attack surface. Often certain high-severity attacks will not be possible from publicly accessible pages, but they may be possible from an internal page. Secure the perimeter. Which I mean, it's good to do that, but I believe that everything should be secured. I don't think you should leave your inside vulnerable and just like secure the crap out of the outside. What happens when somebody gets in? They'll have a heyday. Yeah, and that's the downfall of most companies, is that secure the perimeter. Oh, we're good. Nobody can get on our VPN. Wait till they do. Vulnerabilities in authentication mechanisms. A website's authentication system usually consists of several distinct mechanisms where vulnerabilities may occur. Some vulnerabilities are broadly applicable across all of these contexts, whereas others are more skeptic to the functionality provided. We'll look more closely at some of the common vulnerabilities in the following areas: vulnerabilities in password-based login, vulnerabilities in multi-factor authentication, vulnerabilities in other authentication mechanisms. Note that several of the labs require you to enumerate usernames and brute force passwords. To help you with this process, we've provided a short list of candidate usernames and passwords that should help you solve the labs, because burp community is throttled. So instead of making you use a competitive product or like Zap or Hydra to brute force, they're going to give you a shortened word list, which is, I mean, that's good. I appreciate that. At least they're not making you run through the long stuff, but yeah. Make your tool not work unless somebody pays for it, or not work as well. It's kind of sketchy. I agree with hiding some of the functions, like having collaborator be a pro feature. I agree with that, but to throttle something, it's like, either make it available fully functional or not. Vulnerabilities in third-party authentication mechanisms. If you love to hack authentication mechanisms after completing our main authentication labs, more advanced users may want to try to tackle our OAuth authentication labs. That would be fun. Preventing attacks on your own authentication mechanisms. Whoa! Really? There was no labs in this. Well, I guess there was. I just haven't clicked into them. Alright, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, y'all. So, I need some water. I've noticed that talking a lot really does dehydrate you, which is odd. You wouldn't think it would, but a lot of moisture comes out while you're talking. So, I'm going to go get some water. I'm going to move around, get some blood flowing, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. See you then. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I broke my chat dock at the last second there and wanted to fix it before finishing up with break. We're going to be looking at vulnerabilities in password-based login. I feel pretty comfortable with this already, so I might go through this kind of quickly. If anybody watching wants me to slow down, feel free to drop something in chat, tell me to slow down. But otherwise, we'll just blaze through this, get it done. In this section, we'll look more closely at some of the most common vulnerabilities that occur in a password-based login mechanisms. Well, that was a weird way to say mechanisms. We'll also suggest ways that these can potentially be exploited. There are even some interactive labs so that you can try and exploit these vulnerabilities yourself for websites that adopt a password-based login process. Users either register for an account themselves or they are assigned an account by an administrator. This account is associated with unique username and secret password, which the user enters in a login form to authenticate themselves. In this scenario, the mere fact that they know the secret password is taken as sufficient proof of the user's identity. Consequently, the security of the website would be compromised if the attacker is able to either obtain or guess the login credentials of another user. This can be achieved in various ways, as we'll explore below. Brute force. I'm very curious if Portswigger is going to draw a line between brute forcing and dictionary attacks, because some people are very particular about that, and I can agree with that. Words are important, and the words that we use are important. So for effectively communicating, it helps if the people you're communicating with have the same vocabulary as you. If you're using a term that somebody else thinks means something different, it's very, very hard to communicate concepts. Which is the reason that I like to avoid big terms. I like to put things as simple as possible. It's very hard to confuse somebody if you're using simple speak. Plus, I have a 5-year-old, and so I kind of try to explain everything as if I'm explaining it to him. And I think it helps you understand, it helps you feel, it helps you gauge if you understand a topic or not. If you're unable to simplify something, you don't truly understand it. Guaranteed. If you can't simplify it, you don't understand it. A brute force attack is when an attacker uses a system of trial and error in an attempt to guess valid user credentials. These attacks are typically automated using word lists, so they're not. Dictionary attack is the same as brute force in Portswigger's eyes. I agree. Some people say brute forcing is like starting with all A's and then moving to all A's with the last one B, and incrementing. You're doing like an incremental character attack. Word lists can be different than brute forcing, but Portswigger is a pretty big name. I think we should agree with what they say. This seems to be kind of the consensus anyway. If you're, at least in my experience from talking to other people, brute forcing, dictionary attacks, they all mean the same thing, right? Some people will call you out on it, but they might just be learning. Who knows? A brute force attack, yeah, just learning so you pride yourself on knowing some simple vocab. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but don't pride yourself in anything if you're just learning, other than the fact that you're learning. Pride yourself in the fact that you're learning, so keep an open mind and be ready to absorb information. That's a good way to go. You'll never be disappointed if you keep an open mind. A brute force attack is when we just read that. Automating this process, especially using dedicated tools, potentially enables an attacker to make a vast number of login attempts at a high speed. Brute forcing is not always just a case of making a completely random guesses at username and passwords. We could look at breaches. By also using basic logic or publicly available knowledge breaches, attackers can fine-tune brute force attacks to make much more educated guesses. Another thing that's really interesting is the science or the psychology of how people create passwords, right? So if a password policy requires a capital letter, 8 characters, and a number and a symbol, Most people are going to capitalize the first letter. They're going to put the number at the end, followed by the symbol. A lot of people are going to make the number and symbol a 1 and an exclamation point. And that's just from examining password breaches. I found a pretty good article. I think it's on Nullbytes, Wonder How To, or you could look into it. There's some pretty good science done about, or maybe it's not science, maybe it's statistics about how people choose their passwords and how they adhere to password guidelines. Brute forcing is not always just a case of making random guesses. We just read that. I need to stop talking and just read. It'll be much quicker. Websites that rely on password-based login as their sole method of authenticating users can be highly vulnerable if they do not implement sufficient brute force protection, like account lockouts. 3 failed should lock you out. Brute forcing usernames. I wonder if that's coming from a place of pride where I keep I'm like trying to display that I already know this or something. I'm definitely not an authority on this topic. I'm just, I guess, sharing stuff that I already know. And I'm not sure if it's for pride or if it's because these are actually pretty interesting things. These are pretty useful things. But I'm going to try to just stick to the reading from now on, I think. We'll keep the sidebars to like irrelevant chatter. Brute forcing usernames. Usernames are especially easy to guess if they conform to a recognizable pattern, such as an email address. For example, it's very common to see business logins in the format firstname.lastname@somecompany.com. However, if there is no obvious pattern, sometimes even high-privileged accounts are created using predictable usernames, such as admin or administrator. During auditing, check whether the website discloses potential username publicly. For example, are you able to access user profiles without logging in? Excuse me. Even if the actual content of the profiles is hidden, the name used in the profile is sometimes the same as the login username. I don't know why I just got burps right now. You should also check HTTP responses to see if any email addresses are disclosed. Occasionally, responses contain email addresses of high-privileged users like administrators and IT support. Brute forcing passwords. Passwords can similarly be brute forced, with the difficulty varying based on the strength of the password. Many websites adopt some form of password policy, which forces users to create a high-entropy passwords. That's the word right there, entropy. That are theoretically at least harder to crack using brute force alone. This typically involves enforcing passwords with a minimum number of characters, a mixture of lower and uppercase, and at least one special character. However, while high entropy passwords are difficult for computers alone to crack, we can use basic knowledge of human behavior to exploit the vulnerabilities that users unwittingly introduce to these systems. Rather than creating a strong password with random combination of characters, users often take a password that they can remember and try to crowbar it into fitting into the password policy. For example, if my password is not allowed, if you're just listening, my password being all lowercase with no spaces, no numbers, no symbols. Users may try something like my password 1 exclamation point, which is written in the format that I described earlier. The first letter is capitalized, there's a 1 and an exclamation point at the end. Or my password, which this one is written in with a little bit of elite speak. We have a 4 replacing the A, $sign replacing the S's, and a 0 replacing the O, also a capital M at the beginning. In cases where the policy requires users to change their password on a regular basis, it is also common for users to increment it, right? You go from 1 to 2. Make minor predictable change. It's funny because we all know this because we all do it, right? At one of my jobs way back, we had to rotate passwords every, it was way too frequent, but just let users have longer, simpler passwords that are easier to remember, and then don't make them change it as often. Like, it's still good to change them, but you don't need to be changing it every 90 days. That's just ridiculous. In cases where the policy requires users, this is new. Change your password on a regular basis is also common for users. Just make a minor predictable change to the preferred password. For example, my password 1 exclamation point becomes my password 1 question mark, or my password 2 exclamation point. This knowledge of likely credentials and predictable patterns means that brute force attacks can often be much more sophisticated and therefore effective than simply iterating through every possible combination of characters. That's still useful sometimes too, though. Username enumeration. Username enumeration is when an attacker is able to observe changes in a website's behavior in order to identify whether a given username is valid. Username enumeration typically occurs either on the login page, for example, when you enter a valid username but an incorrect password, or on a registration form when you enter a username that's already taken, or in a password reset form when you go to reset the password and it says that user does not exist. This greatly reduces the time. That wasn't in the content, by the way. And I said I wasn't going to keep doing that, but honestly, I don't think I'm doing it to be a jerk. Like, these are things that I've dealt with before, so I'm going to keep adding the little tidbits in like that. If it gets annoying, let me know. But I think it'll be valuable to somebody, hopefully. This greatly reduces the time and effort required to brute force a login because the attacker is able to quickly generate a short list of valid usernames. Alright. While attempting to brute force a login page, you should pay particular attention to any differences in status codes, error messages, and response times. Fortunately enough, I'm thinking these are the 3 columns in the output in Burp Suite's intruder module. Maybe not error messages, but they definitely have a column for response times and for status codes. They also have size. Size is a pretty big one too sometimes. During a brute force attack, the return HTTP status code is likely to be the same for the vast majority of guesses because most of them will be wrong. That's pretty cool. That's a good way to look at it. And it's true. If a guess returns... Sorry, one of my kids was trying to bust in here. It's mommy's shift. It's not my shift. What time is it? Okay. I'll probably have to... Let's see. Can we get through this? It's getting to be just about dinner time here. Oh, and the little one's crying. We'll just get through these quick. I'm not going to read this. If you're playing along, go ahead and read that if you're not familiar already. I'm already familiar with this. I'm going to just hop into these, get them done, and go eat dinner with my family. Username enumeration via different responses. We'll just access the lab. Yeah, there's the word lists that I need. Let's grab those quick. Gosh, I thought you said you were going to make this a small list. We'll do VI users. We'll make another folder. Victor authentic. I'm gonna call it authentication just because I feel like a troll when I say that. If you say it that way, no offense to you. It's still funny to me because it's pretty new. And then we'll create a new file called users. We'll paste all that. And then we'll make another one called passwords. Oh no. And we'll grab all those passwords. Hopefully my password's not on here somewhere. Do you ever do that if you're looking at a word list? See if your password's on there? I'll check. Whoops. Oh, good. My password's not on there. I wonder if your password's on there. Nah, your password's not on there either. Cool. We're both safe. Alright. We like to blog. New year, new friends. Where's the login page? I've always liked pictures like this, where they grab somebody's hair moving in the middle, and then they take a picture with the hair all messy. That's pretty cool. These techie folks have done it again. Yada yada yada. Sick. What's Tony Hawk doing on the freeway? Front side nose grind. Whoa. That's one heck of a filter. It's the filter of youth. Spiderweb security. That is creepy as all get out. I would burn the place down if I saw that. Oh my gosh. Help. That reminds me of Castaway. Wilson! Wilson! No silly names, please. I don't see a login portal. There we go. My account. Alright, let's do this with Burp. It shouldn't take too long since they gave us that short list. If it's taking long, I'll probably just throw Hydra at it. That's what I did during the OSCP. That's what I did in the PNPT. I used a lot of crack map exec during the PNPT too. That's a good one to know. I gotta give a shout out to IPSec for that one, because I would never have used crack map exec until I saw a few walkthroughs that IPSec did for Hack the Box. There were some pretty neat things that you can do. There are some pretty neat things you can do with crack map exec, CME. I need to alias that in my terminal, CME. Let's do test. Let's try to just guess it first. Admin, password. Don't save. Resend. We have our username here, password here. We're going to send this over to Intruder. I'm also going to send it to Repeater because I'm curious if that's going to work or not. And we need to see, I might do a little bit of advanced kung fu here. Not solved. My account. Invalid. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to copy this data here. So this did not work. This is not the correct credentials. We're going to go to Intruder. I'm sure they'll teach us in the course. I already know how to do this, so I'm just going to do it quick. We'll clear all this stuff out. Hopefully we don't have to cycle the session token. We're going to add a position for username, a position for password. We're going to go into the payloads. We're going to set... Oh no, we gotta go back here and set it to cluster bomb. Cluster bomb is the one that cycles through both lists. Pitchfork cycles through both lists but sequentially, so the first entry in both lists is tested, the second entry in both lists is tested. First entry is never tested with the second entry. If you want to do all possible combinations, that's the cluster bomb. We're gonna do that one. We're gonna go to payloads. We're gonna select the first payload, which is our username. We're gonna select the usernames from our directory that we just created, which was called portswigger something or another. There it is. Authentication, users. Why is the passwords one not there? We forgot to right quit on it. Then we're gonna go to the second payload. We're gonna select the passwords list. We're gonna open that up, and then in options, this is the extra mile thing. Very helpful. We have a grep extract and a grep match. The grep match is going to allow us to see if a specific string or a specific pattern, and you can use grep syntax here. That's, I think, I don't know, I guess, I assume you can because it's called grep match, but you're essentially looking for some data in the response. If that data exists, Burp creates a column. So whether or not it exists, it creates a column, but then in that column there's a check mark showing if that instance of the request had this data in the response or not. That's what this grep match feature here is for. So we're going to use that to say we want to see if the response says invalid username. And if it does, this might not be the best, because it'll get us up to the username. But let's get rid of that. So we just have the one flag results, and then we don't need to include headers. It can be case sensitive, it doesn't matter. You could use regular expressions too if you wanted to. So let's go ahead and fire that attack. That's okay. Yep. Give me money or I'm gonna slow you down is what this says. So we're probably gonna figure out what the valid username is long before we figure out the valid password. We probably could have been a little bit more tactical about this. So we could, in fact, I am going to be more tactical because of the throttling. So for positions, we're actually going to get rid of this position. We're just going to test the username first until we get rid of that invalid username message. For password, we're going to use just password. I don't think the cluster bound thing matters anymore. Let's try this. Okay, yeah, I guess it does matter. So we're going to go back to sniper. We'll start attack. Just an FYI, Hydra would have been through both lists by now. As long as the web app itself wasn't throttling the replies. So we have a valid username here. Valid username is accounts. We have another one, administrator is not a valid one. Oh goodness. We'll just use that accounts one. We can go, this is a separate window, we can just let that keep running. We're gonna go back to our attack and then we'll switch the position. We're gonna make this one say accounts, which is the one we found to be valid. We're gonna add another one here. We're gonna go to payloads. This time we're brute forcing the password. So we want to clear all this out and then load the passwords, and then I guess let's send this to repeater. Oh no. Intruder positions. Let's send this to repeater and then we'll see what I'm assuming it's going to be invalid password. Chances are that error message has changed, which is absolutely horrible. These error messages should match whether the username or password is correct or incorrect, meaning there should be two instances or there should be two possible outcomes in the UI. Either the user was able to log in or they were not able to log in. And if they're not able to log in, they should be shown the same error message every time. That was too serious. I forgot what I was doing. So we saw, okay, we're gonna switch our grep match over to this. It's just invalid password. Options, grep match, invalid password. Add that, remove that, and we're gravy. Let's do it. Start attack. Okay, I get it. You don't want me to do this for free. None of them say invalid password. Well, that's not good. How are we gonna know which one worked then? Oh, it's supposed to be incorrect password, that's why. Well, either way, we can just use something else like the length, for example. So if we look at this, we notice that the length is the same all the way through until right about here. Once we get to here, we have a 302, and then the length changes again, but this time it's different. It's different, but the same, right? So my guess is going to be this 302 redirect is going to be like redirecting to the account's dashboard page, meaning that the login was successful, meaning that our password is football. So we can validate that by looking here. Yeah, we don't have that invalid password in there or incorrect password. So these are our credentials. And if we go back here to the lab itself and refresh, it should say it's solved now. We could probably turn the proxy off now. Oh, it still says not solved. Okay. Let's try to log in with the credentials that we found then. Our username is accounts. Our password is football. There we go. Solve the lab. So we just had to open it in the UI, in the browser. We had to open the UI in the browser in order to solve the challenge. The web request itself was not enough. Next up, we have username enumeration via subtly different responses. Is this list different? Can we just use the same list over and over? Like, I'm half tempted just to use Hydra to get this done quicker. It looks to be the same username list. Yeah, we'll just say that it is. And actually, it seems to be the same URL, so we don't need to click that anymore. It's going to be the same. Is subtly vulnerable to username enumeration and password brute force attacks and has an account with a predictable something or another. So let's try that out. Turn the proxy back on, and then we'll do something like admin, never save, advanced, accept, resend. I need to move my mic up. I keep leaning down to get to it, and it's really wrecking my posture. Posture is important, just like breaks are important. How you feel matters. And if you have bad posture, you're not going to feel good. You're probably going to feel like crap, specifically in your back. Oh, the proxy is probably stopping us right now. Let's go ahead and clear that out. Whoa, it already caught something. Okay, there we go. Let's try that again. Admin this time, double admin. We are gonna send this over to repeater, which we didn't need to do. We could just do intruder. We're gonna clear all positions because right now we just want to do the username, I think. Maybe not. Did we see what the response was? So okay, we did need it in repeater because that's how we're gonna know if we can use the grep match or not. I take that back. We're going to use the grep match either way, but this will tell us what string we need, and here we go. This is best practice. Invalid username or password, right? So we're going to add this in, and we're going to go to sniper. Payloads are going to be the username, the grep match, we'll clear that out, and we'll add this, and we can use the same grep match. We won't need to change it this time, but we just want to figure out Oh, crud. We actually do need to cycle the passwords as well. Unless it's going to change if we have a valid username. But it probably won't. Let's get rid of this. Discard. And then I'm not going to let it take forever. I'm going to use Hydra quick, you guys. I know the whole point of this is like learning burp and stuff, but I'm not going to play nice with the whole freemium nonsense. So speaking of that, if anybody has a Burp Pro license that they want to hand out, that'd be sick. As long as you're not violating any terms and conditions, which you probably are. So if you have an extra one sitting around and you want to give it away, I'm accepting donations. What on earth? Alright, in this case, what we're going to do is look at the response, the request. We're going to look at the request, not the response. And then we're going to use Hydra. So let's get that going. Capital L for a list users, capital P for list passwords. And then we're going to be doing the HTTP post form, I think. Let's double check that though in our proxy. So this is indeed a post request to the endpoint login, and we are, It's not HTTPS, is it? It is HTTPS. No. Is it? Is it? I don't know how to see that in burp. It is not. It is not. Connection is not secure. It isn't. Okay. We're going to grab the URL. Oh, it is. Okay, it's HTTPS. We'll grab the URL. And then I think we actually might need the whole... No. Yeah. No. I don't know. We'll find out. Then we're going to put the URL. We're going to put the endpoint, which is whack login. We're going to put the payload or the body of the request that we're going to be sending, which will be username equals, and then this is a variable, or we're telling Hydra where to inject the items from the TAC-L. Passwords, probably just one password though, equals pass. And we know our failure message includes the term invalid. Invalid. And to make sure it's working, we're going to set that as our success message. This means that our first attempt should come back as successful. It will be a false positive, but since we're expecting it, it'll be a way for us to test if we have like syntax errors in Hydra. This is actually recommended to do by the maker of Hydra in the Hydra documentation. So I think we need to do like something like that. Try that out. Still mad about the HTTPS. We'll get rid of that part. Unknown service. Alright, I think actually what's going on is we just did this backwards. That's one thing with Linux tools. Okay, cool. We get the false positives as expected. Now we'll get rid of the S for success, and it defaults to F for failure, or we could have just like put F equals for failure equals. But one thing that I don't like about some of these Linux tools is that the you don't have to, for example, in Hydra, we use TAC-L to specify our user list. We use TAC-P to specify our passwords. This allows us to add TAC-L and TAC-P pretty much anywhere. We don't have to make sure that they're in a specific order, because that takes memorizing, right? We have to memorize which order they're going to go in, or check the help every time. Something like this, though, I think it's called positional arguments, where Hydra is expecting the thing after options to be our URL or our IP address of the server, and then the thing following that should be the service that we're testing. And I'm not a huge fan of positional parameters or positional arguments, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because I don't have the greatest memory and I usually end up doing it wrong. That's why I know how to test if it's working or not. Because, yeah, I can't remember the order. That's why. So this should be done relatively quickly. Let's see what's up next. Not get started on it, but we'll at least take a look at it. Oh, maybe not. Maybe we won't. Let's see. Well, we haven't found it yet. Alright, I see that we have 4 viewers now, at least according to my dashboard. So if any of you guys are new, feel free to chat. I'll definitely interact with you if you do chat, especially when there's something like this happening, right? If there's a scan going or we're waiting on some response. Holy buckets, we have quite the word list here. But, I don't know. I'm not sure how long it'll take to get through it. This says it could take up to 30 minutes. So the website is throttling us pretty bad. I usually see this like 900 or higher. Yeah, the website is definitely throttling us, or the fact that I'm uploading 7 YouTube videos right now might also be doing it. I might be using up all my bandwidth, who knows. Speaking of that, while I'm waiting, I'm gonna check out. Whoa, hey, there I am.
WPone.
Yep. That's gonna be the next one to be uploaded to YouTube. So while we're waiting, let's get that going. We'll get that uploaded. We'll see if we have any copyright strikes on that. I'm pretty sure we will. I have copyright strikes on just about everything. Hopefully not by Twitch though. You know, I'm not trying to make any money off this. I'm not trying to steal anybody's music. I literally just enjoy good music, and I like to listen to music while I'm doing this, and I like to provide this stuff to you guys for free. So hopefully I don't end up in a jail cell for something as simple as listening to music while I'm streaming. That would be absolutely ridiculous. I'm curious why this is being throttled so bad. I mean, it would take twice as long in burp, I imagine. Let's see if it said anything about how we could get around that in here. To solve the lab, enumerate a valid username, brute force this user's password, then access their account page. This lab is subtly vulnerable to username enumeration and password brute force attacks. It has an account with a predictable username and password which can be found in the following word lists. So I guess what we should have done then is continued our intruder attack of usernames. This is 46. Which one are we attacking right now? kill this one, or is it still going? Oh, this was the, okay, this was the one that worked. That's how we got the password for the last module. Oh, I gotta go. Okay. Never mind, I don't gotta go. My son was coughing, and then he yelled help. That's usually a pretty good sign that there's an emergency. So I went to kill the stream, and it was like, are you sure? I don't know if this is still going or not. You guys still hear me? Are you sure you want to stop the stream? No. I don't know where my other headphone went, though. Kind of lost it when I hopped up. Probably on the floor somewhere. Man. Where the heck did that go? It must have launched pretty far if I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Alright. I just stick to WFuzz, says Hunterbot. WFuzz for password brute forcing? Or I guess dictionary attacks. Use WFuzz for that? I didn't know you could do that. So let's see. I think there's actually going to be a little bit of disclosure here. This was our other one that told us the valid username. We're going to discard that. Goodness. This is why I usually go live late at night, wait for everybody to fall asleep. It's a little bit easier when I'm not getting interrupted and such, but I do feel pretty burnt out by the end of the day. It's hard to think, hard to read, so especially on weekends, you know, I'd probably just be sitting around watching TV right now, so why do that when I could be doing this? We have this. We're gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna start over. We'll go to the username or the login portal. We'll let that keep running. Who knows? It might get somewhere. Reopen Burp Suite. And then we'll go to start burp. Oh man, I'm getting kind of hot. It was cold earlier and I've been wearing the sweatshirt. Now I'm getting hot. We're gonna turn on the proxy. We're gonna, well, turn on intercept and then turn on the proxy, and then we're going to submit this. It'll get all mad and ask us to resend the form data. And then we're gonna do that last thing we did where we set, well, first we'll send it to intruder, then we'll set the username to be our position, add sniper mode. For the payloads, we're gonna load our list of usernames. We're gonna go ahead and start the attack. That's all we really want. That's all we really need. We're trying to see if there is any difference, and we already found it. It looks like Carlos is the username. Oh, wait. No, okay. So the length is changing for each one of these. Which... who knows why that is. Let's see what's going on. In the first one, when we said Carlos... is it saying like the username in here somewhere? No. So it's just randomly. Oh, it's because of this here, this analytics ID. That analytics ID is variable length, so, and sometimes we see like an HTML comment popping in there. What is the subtle difference that would allow us to see a valid username? And also, is there a password reset function that we could have been using? So many questions. Let's start finding answers. Go ahead and forward that. See what happens. Invalid username or password. Yeah, there's no password reset or anything like that. WFuzz. Okay. Is the syntax pretty similar to Hydra? And also, you know, there's a lot of fuzzing tools like that. I'm not sure if they all can handle usernames and passwords though, unless it's being submitted in the URL, but I'll have to check that out. WFuzz. I've used it, I think, for directory enumeration, but not for brute forcing passwords. Hydra's still going strong. I always thought you could hit S to get status, but that must be Hashcat I'm thinking of. So our attack is completed, maybe? No, still running. Let's do something like... cd into our port swigger authentication directory. And we'll do cat users word count. 101 usernames that we're going through, and we are just over halfway. Thanks Burp, appreciate it. I get it, you need to make money, I get it, but also this course is free. It'd be nice if I could just maybe even just temporarily go full speed here. Although the website's throttling Hydra even, so could just be what the web app is doing. How are we gonna find the valid username? Username enumeration via subtly different responses. I say we do this. I say we grab this. We know that that is going to be the message. Let's keep this running. I was going to try to add in a grep match. I wonder if I could do that. Will it process the existing requests? Actually, want to clear this list? Yes. Add a new item. You are editing live config for a running attack. You should proceed with caution and consider pausing the attack. Okay, well, I'm not going to. No way, it does? Whoa. Okay, much respect, much respect. That's awesome. You can add a grep match after the fact. Who knew? Is this the difference here? Is that what's happening? There's going to be some subtle difference here. Is it that HTML comment? That would be so funny. It's showing up on like half of them though. Not sure why. So we're just about through the word list of 101 words. We're on request 99 now. 100. One more left to go. Let's do it. An auto discover. Ah, okay. So we do have one username where invalid username or password is not found. And let's see what it says then. What's the difference? Invalid username. There's no period. Oh my goodness, you guys. I'm so glad I highlighted the whole message. So they manually typed those two messages. That's when you should use copy and paste. Make sure you copy the whole thing and paste it. Or if there's some way to route the same message to both scenarios, do that. What now? So we know the username, AU. Let's use this then. Let's use Burp Suite. We'll go back to the intruder tab. We'll go back to the positions. We'll clear our positions, and then we'll set this as the position. We'll change this to AU. Set this as our testing position, and change our payload list out. First we want to clear, then we want to load. Passwords, open. And now our grep match is going to be without a period. And fire. Hello. All right, who we got in chat? Oh my goodness. Let's create a bot that makes random users on Twitch with hard to pronounce usernames. Particule Dediu. Sorry if I just butchered that. I'm gonna call you Particle. Is that okay? Nice to meet you, Particle. Particle Didi. How's that? I don't know how to pronounce that. If there's one thing my kids need to learn, it's not to cry wolf. They're doing that all the time. Rest assured though, my wife's out there with them. No worries. Oh, is that French? It is French. I took French. Un peu. Je parle en français un peu. That is probably not very good. Bad grammar, bad pronunciation. So let's do a whatchamacallem translation. Translate French to English. Text. God particle. Ooh. Wow, nice to meet you, God particle. Dedios. Yeah, my French is really rusty. And I already closed out of the translator. Thank God for reopen tab, right? De Dios. Of Dios. What is Dios? Oh, is that God? That's what the de Dios is, just like conjugated or whatever. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, okay. That's pretty funny that you, well, I don't mean to say that it's funny, but the guy that I started this channel with, Tyler Ramsby, him and I took French class together in high school. The Higgs boson. Yep. And we both were kind of troublemakers in school. Sorry, Tyler, if I just leaked you to the internet, like if you don't want people to know that we both were pretty horrible teenagers. But in French class, I don't remember how it started, but there was this phrase, j'avais mangé le petit enfant. And it's the only thing I can consistently remember from French class. And it was so funny because we'd walk around pretending to be monsters and say, I'm gonna eat the small children. And I just still think that's the funniest thing ever. Mr. Higgs boson. Boson. I don't know how to say it. Mr. Higgs. Arc. We have another first time chatter. Archon064. Nice to meet you, Arc. Thanks for joining in. Yes, the Goff particle, indeed. What brings you here? How did you find out about this? Sorry to grill you. You just came at an opportune time. I'm waiting for a scan to complete or a brute force to complete. So we could probably kill this. It's gonna take longer than the other one does. Got a valid username. We can probably get rid of this one. I eat the kind. Yes. Is that our password? Access. Indeed, our password is access. So our username is AU, our password is access. Let's go ahead and give it a shot, get logged in, and get this one done. Yay. And we got one more, and then I'm gonna call it. But I am so glad that we have some new viewers. I always love seeing new people, meeting new people. I was a Unix admin way back in the day, and I worked for another engineer who was the head engineer at CERN. Man, so many interesting stories. I bet that, yeah, oh, let's see. Way back in the day, so did you ever have to worry about like the blue boxes or the Captain Crunch whistles? Are you talking like that way back in the day, or post blue Captain Crunch whistles? And Particle of God says, I check for CTF. All right. Nice. Well, yeah, you might want to check, I don't know, you might be interested in some of the videos I'm posting to YouTube now. Then I have some content of me working through Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, some VulnHub, and I try not to cut out any of the mistakes. Originally I was going around editing everything, but lately I haven't. How did you know that AU was the user? So we had a different I'm going to finish that other thought first. So I try not to cut out mistakes in my stuff because I want you guys to see how I learn and how I work through stuff. And sometimes that means that I pop up in a write-up and just follow the write-up, but still it's a learning experience, and I want you guys to see that. I want you to feel like I'm not perfect, because I'm not. So how do you know AU was the user? The attack that we did before this, we were using a username list on this position. So we're testing them separately because, first of all, the application is sending responses back to us very slowly. So if we were to do I don't remember what the attack, a cluster bomb attack, for example, it would take forever. And this application is set up in such a way that the error message is different if the username is correct. So a bad username generates a different error message than a good username. So instead of doing exponentially more requests, we just fuzzed the username first until we saw that different response. Then that let us know that the username was AU. Now, after we got AU, we hard-coded that in, switched the position over to the password field, and we're sending the dictionary through the password field now. So that's how we got that done. Yeah, back in the Captain Crunch days, no crap. Oh, man. I bet your back hurts. No offense. Mine does too, but much respect there. You've been around for a while then. Well, welcome. I can't imagine what you would be doing here wanting to watch this, but I'm glad to have you here. And if you want to, so we do have a few new people chatting, and I am just about done with this. So I'm going to do a quick plug for the Discord server. We have a community of about 600 people. We meet once a week to discuss our goals and our achievements for the week. So if you have any goals that you've kind of been letting fall through the cracks, it may be due to a lack of accountability or a lack of support or a lack of direction. And I fought that for a long time. So me and my buddy that I was talking about earlier, we started up a little study group. It turned into a big community on Discord, and we do this accountability meeting. So it doesn't matter what you want to learn. It doesn't matter what your goals are. It could be fitness goals. It could be financial goals, whatever it is. Just hop in, tell us what your goals are. We'll make you write them down. And then if you show up at the next meeting, we can grill you a little bit about whether or not you got your goals done. And it's been very helpful for me, especially this past year, which is about how long it's been going on. Because the whole thing that spawned this was me going after the OSCP and Tyler also. So we both wanted to go after the OSCP. We decided to start studying together and keeping each other accountable. And then other people thought it was a cool idea too. So the more the merrier. So if you guys want to join us on Discord, we have, I'll drop a link here quick, if I can remember what it is. I'm not sure if that'll work. I'll test it though. That indeed does work. So we hope to see you over here. Arc, that would be a great place for you to let us know some of your awesome stories. There are a few hacker-minded people on there. Not everyone on there is. Some people are just trying to break into IT. But still, I mean, some of those stories I'm sure are awesome. Back when tech didn't have the security in place yet. I always think of movies like War Games or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where it was just kind of a free-for-all. I imagine some pretty crazy stuff happened back then. Did we solve this one yet? So that was the plug. So now I'm going to get back to this, and we're just wrapping up, about to finish up, hopefully. Response timing, oh goodness. This one might take a little bit longer. Solve a lab or enumerate a valid username, brute force the user's password. Your credentials. Oh, it gives me credentials. Did the last one give me credentials too? It did. No, this is the same one. I've already opened it, and then I went into the plug, and then I opened it again. So let's access the lab. Let's get YouTube music going again, because I have a pretty hot mic, and I don't want you guys to be hearing me like swallowing or making weird noises with my mouth.
Ready to start eating healthier?
Yes?
Meet Kachava.
Nah. You said eat, not drink. Don't try to trick me. Doo-doo-doo. Let's get this done. Username is admin. Probably not. So here's something we could do. We could turn on... Oh, let's see. We're going to want to get rid of this old attack. Kind of clean the slate so I don't get confused. Get rid of both of those. That one too. That one, that one, that one. Yeah, it's just going to keep bringing new ones. Turn intercept off. And we'll take a look at the history. So, does this tell us the timing? It doesn't tell us, like, how long it took. Let's just do it. Let's just go for it, see what happens. There's got to be something showing us the difference. They wouldn't give us an impossible challenge. Although I am waiting for the day that happens, where a website just presents an impossible challenge and the only way to pass it is to email the creator and say, hey, this is impossible. Tricky, tricky. I suppose I should probably turn intercept on. And then we'll send this over to the intruder. We're gonna go ahead and clear out all the positions, set just the username position. So I don't remember who asked about the particle, God particle. This is exactly what we did last time as well. So we're just going to be setting the username parameter or the username position, leave it as a sniper attack. We're going to load our list of usernames that was provided by the module. I don't have it open anymore, but there's a username list provided, so we don't have to run through like a huge list, but there's that. Yeah, I think that's all we need for now. Let's go ahead and start the attack. This doesn't tell us the timing at all. I wonder if we can display. That would be something you'd want to see, isn't it? Like return time or something, or total time to return. I'm not sure how you would do a timing attack in Burp. Maybe it's in options. Oh, cool. You can follow redirects too. I never saw that setting before, but that would have been useful to know on some challenge I was working on previously. I'm kind of surprised that they don't just have that as a default, the timing. I think Zap, Z Attack Proxy, made by OWASP, actually has timing as a default column in the attack output. And I don't know if we can add columns. Response received. Is this the number of seconds that it took? That doesn't seem right. Maybe the number of milliseconds that it took or something. I do see a difference in length on one of these. Carlos. And the request took quite a bit longer. But this one took the longest. I don't know if this one's actually timing, because I usually check out the length first. And Carlos has a pretty good length in the fact that it's different from all the other ones. Invalid username or password. Why is the length so much different? Oh, you have made too many incorrect login. What? Please try again in 30 minutes? Maybe I misinterpreted what they were saying about timing. Did not connect. So we need to slow it down, I think, to prevent that. This lab is vulnerable to username enumeration using its response times. To solve the lab, enumerate a valid username, brute force the user's password, then access their account page. So we do have credentials. Maybe I should log in to see if I can see somebody's username. Wiener. Peter. Oh. Wow, okay. I guess I'm not allowed to work on this anymore. Can I create a new session by closing out of this? This ends in OB7. Ah. Sorry guys, I can't finish this one until 30 minutes from now. So I guess we'll leave this one for next time. I'm gonna go eat dinner. I really appreciate everybody who stuck around and watched. I hope you got something out of this. If nothing other than just a laugh, right? That's what I'm here for. I'm just studying, right? And this is a more fun way for me to study. I'm able to still study and get some interaction, which is greatly needed after COVID and working from home. So I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for chatting. Hope to see you next time. Hope to see you around on Discord. And that's all I got. Have a good one. Bye.